What's up, everyone? Got my morning coffee here, and we're going to start the day off with this post called "Many of You Aren't Utilizing Neville's Inner Conversation Technique Enough." And let's get into it. He writes about it multiple times in several of his books, yet I rarely see it discussed here, despite it being an incredibly easy way to think from your desire rather than think of your desire. I'm sure many of us have imaginary conversations in our head, whether it be arguments, things we wish we could say to people, replaying old conversations, fantasizing about confronting someone, and so on. I find myself having them every single day, but when I say imaginary conversations, I don't mean fake. Remember, what's in our heads is just as real as what's in our world. Everything comes from within. When we imagine, we create. Keeping track of these inner conversations is an imperative part of a strong mental diet. Instead of imagining confronting your boss for not paying you enough, imagine your boss telling you that you're getting a promotion and a raise. Instead of replaying a regretful old conversation in your head that you had with your SP, imagine waking up next to them and telling each other how happy you both are together. Instead of fantasizing about your friend and everything that's been weighing on you lately, about telling your friend everything that's been weighing on you lately, imagine telling them how excited you are that you got accepted into your dream university. In section 7, Attitude and the Power of Awareness, Neville writes about a woman whom he helped with his teachings. She was a costume designer and was having difficulties with one of the producers. He suspected that she was likely having mental conversations with him, and he was correct. She admitted that she constantly fantasized about confronting this producer and giving him a piece of her mind. Every time she had one of these mental conversations, she went into it with the assumption that the producer was rude and hard to work with. It's no surprise that when she showed up to work, that's how he acted towards her. However, with Neville's advice, the woman stopped having these confrontational inner conversations and imagined the man congratulating her on her work and thanking him for his praise. It worked. He began showing much more kindness toward her and was no longer difficult to work with. Others only echo that which we whisper to them in secret. These moments of inner conversation are extremely powerful and can evoke very strong feelings within us. We may even become so involved in them that we shut out the rest of the world completely and fully engage ourselves in them. This is actually what you're supposed to do when manifesting, yet we often do it involuntarily. On the bright side, this shows that getting into this state is actually quite simple. Unfortunately, we often focus on negative scenarios when in this state and having mental conversations. So switch it up. The next time you have an imaginary argument in your head, stop yourself. Imagine a kind stranger telling you that you're beautiful or handsome. Imagine your coach telling you that you've been playing great lately. Imagine your friend telling you that you're an incredible singer, or that you're incredible at whatever that thing is that you've been working on. Imagine telling your spouse that you got a raise at work. Imagine telling your doctor that you've been feeling great lately. It's so powerful. This is also a big thing for the SP crowd. I don't know about you guys, but I found that one of the biggest obstacles in my SP journey has been thinking of the relationship rather than thinking from it. In my mental conversations, I was imagining us flirting or what I'd do to get her attention. I'd imagine her texting me and asking me to hang out. I went into these conversations with the assumption that we are not together and she doesn't want me. And the obvious result was that I wasn't getting my SP. That was until I realized my mistake. Here are some examples of our inner conversations I've been having since then. I imagine us talking about baby names together. I imagine us sitting in a restaurant while on a date and talking about how great the food is, or discussing where we want to go for our honeymoon. I won't be going into much detail right now as I don't want to get in the way of my persistence, but let's just say it's been working like a charm. Also, these conversations don't have to be between you and your SP. You can imagine telling your friend how happy you are in your relationship. You can imagine a stranger stopping you guys when you're out for a stroll and telling you that you two are so cute together. You can imagine a family member telling you that they're so glad that you found someone so great. So, here are the key takeaways from this. Mental conversations are very powerful forms of prayer since they can get us so emotionally involved. 2, watch out for arguments or negative conversations. Have ones that make you happy. 3, go into these conversations with the assumption that you have your desire. Have ones that apply that it is done. Accept that all you want is yours and everything comes from within. You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it. What a powerful post. I really like how they've given examples in this post. They've broken down a bunch of different examples, and that's usually what I like to do, is to add in examples, my own examples, into some of these posts here. So now, Poetry is Prayer replied, mental conversations are more natural and therefore typically more effective than contrived affirmations. Somebody replied, imaginary convos / the telephone technique always felt 100 times more real and natural than some shitty generic affirmations. Even when I come up with the best affirmations possible, with the words that resonate, it still doesn't feel as real or as good as an imaginary conversation. You can easily do this technique in your head for long periods of time. This is so interesting because I'll be honest with you guys, what this person's saying here, doing this in your head for long periods of time, obviously I have that video, my best performing video on YouTube is about robotic affirming. So I'm a big proponent of that and I've used that a lot, but I have not done extensively use this telephone technique or this imaginal conversation technique. And it's really cool seeing it outlined in such a powerful way. I haven't come across anyone breaking it down with so much detail, with so well worded. So let's take a look at some of these other comments. This has been my main form of manifestation. It's basically sats and a mental diet without being sleepy. I've always imagined combos and many have come true. I imagined a professor asking me about a death metal band shirt I was wearing after finding out he was into metal, and it happened exactly as I imagined, down to the exact words. I've also imagined convos between my friends and it all came true. I love this method because it seems so natural. I also did theater and I was used to talking to myself or memorizing lines, which is crazy helpful. Okay, now as I'm reading this example here, I stand corrected. I have used this technique. I just haven't used it in so specifically as the way that they have said here. The way that I've used it is a more vague, general approach, which is I broke down in a recent video in the world of dating, getting to know somebody, or even in a relationship, imagining the way that conversation is going to go is like something that I have done. I don't generally, and I have done this before. It's not to say that I've never done it, but I don't generally go in imagining the exact words or phrases people are going to say to me. But I also have used this technique with a friend of mine who is looking to get a job, because I've seen that example that Neville talks about imagine congratulating your friend on his new job. And I did that exact technique where it was like, dude, like, congratulations, like you deserve, like, you earned this. And that conversation, and yes, he got the job. I also helped him a bit with his resume. I helped him a bit with some various things revolving around the job process. But again, guys, this post is just so awesome. I think, the key takeaways, they've already broken down the key takeaways. I don't know how much more I have to add on to this other than I'm going to reread this post myself or rewatch this video so that I can begin to apply this into what I'm currently working on right now. As I've mentioned before, I'm working on. I've got some different goals going on, some things about revolving around this channel, some things revolving around my music that I'm working on. Have this song releasing very soon. But with that being said, there's so many moving parts now to releasing music that I don't feel completely confident in, and I would like to get better at thinking from the end rather than of the end. And when it comes to your art, when it comes to my art, I can be much more attached, and it's harder for me to have this type of energy which we talk about on the channel. And I think it's hard. I'm not unique in that sense. I think a lot of people, a lot of creative people, it's like your baby. Like, you get very attached to this art that you're creating. And if people don't like it, or if their response isn't good, or if it falls on deaf ears, if nobody gets to see it, it can be very demoralizing for a lot of artists. I've heard this before. I'm reading this book called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. It's a great book. As I mentioned in a previous video, I'm really enjoying it, and it is shedding light. There's other books on this topic about The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And these books, there is overlap with the creative journey or the creative process of an artist, and anybody, regardless of whether you're doing art in a professional or a hobby type capacity. Our life itself is a creative work. It is a creative act through our different choices, through the different ways that we move throughout our lives. It is our creative, generative energy, which is at the core of our being, that is our desire, our will to live, and our will to create the life of our choosing, is very much the same type of energy. So the book, it's been shedding a lot of light for me as of late. And like I said, I'm not unique in that sense. A lot of people can get very attached towards our manifestations, towards our goals, towards the goals that we hold near and dear. And a lot of this work that we're doing here is learning how to detach, how to be calm and centered in the knowing, and in that certain feeling, getting that certain feeling, which is what Wallace Wattles calls it in The Science of Getting Rich. And that is just that calm feeling. And I've been watching this show Blacklist lately. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. It is a great show though. And the reason it's so great is because of the character Raymond Reddington. I find that usually all great shows and stories are great because of the characters in them, as well as the storylines, the plot lines. The other characters obviously add to the cocktail to make a great story and a great piece of work. But with Raymond's character in this show, every single situation that comes across his table, that he runs into, he remains, for the most part, very calm and centered. I think there's literally one episode where he gets thrown for a loop, and it's good because it shows that he's also human, just like everybody else. But he is able to maintain that calm energy that I talk about in a lot of my videos, whereas all the other characters in the show are going on these emotional swings. Lizzie in particular is constantly getting emotionally affected and reactive to every single situation. Then you've got other people, Aram, these characters on the show, if you've seen it, they get very flustered very easily, and they get taken off course very quickly. And when you see this in the third person, when you visualize it on a show like that, you can really see this and be like, yeah, like this, I can watch this for what it is in the third person and be like, yeah, like you can see where they're having blind spots, these characters. They're having mental blocks because they're allowing their emotions to take over. And Raymond's always coming in and saving the day, literally. He's like their daddy on this show. And it's funny because Devin and I were talking about that last night. He's like, oh, daddy's coming to save the day again. Because they all end up getting themselves into the thick of it. They all come in with their naivete and their kind of more childish approach to things. And like I said, getting emotional. And that cool, calm-headed perspective that Raymond embodies in the show is the way that they're able to come out on the other side and see the other end. And it's really cool to watch. A lot of times you'll see shows, like I said, I'm a fan of various different shows. Peaky Blinders is another good one to watch how, what's his name? the main character on that, Tommy Shelby, handles situations. Again, he handles them with grace. He's not quite as maybe witty or funny as Raymond Reddington is in Blacklist, but he has his own way of handling these situations. And without going on too much of a rant that's not grounded in the conversation here, which is about inner conversations. But if you can have these inner conversations coming at it with that type of demeanor, if you watch a character on a show and adopt that demeanor and be like, how would this character handle this? How would Raymond Reddington handle this situation? That's a fun way that you can actually start to step into those qualities. So it's just something that I thought I would mention. But anyways, much love as always. Like I said, I'm very excited about what's to come. We've got that guide on the ability to remove negative limiting beliefs. That free guide is available down below in the description. I've got music coming out. I have different projects in the works, and I'm very excited. 2024 is going to be a great year, and I'm going to work on living from the end. Let me know down in the comments, guys, any specific practices you guys have been using that have been working well. Anything that's been going well as far as that goes, and do you guys have experience living with these inner conversations, living from the end by engaging in these inner conversations? Has this technique worked for you? Would you be interested in videos covering specifically like different imaginal scenes that you can do for various situations, or kind of like a breakdown or a state recipe like I mentioned before, where it's like I guide you through almost a guided meditation, visualization practice, hypnosis, where you are now being guided into that state. All these different things in the works. With that being said, much love as always. Hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.